and the new year awaits. Breath breathes, waits, listening in darkness. While the laborer of muddy boots stretches his hands to the fire, the new year waits, destiny waits for the coming. Who has stretched out his hand to the fire and remembers the saints of all hallows, remembers the martyrs and the saints who wait. And who shall stretch out his hand to the fire and deny his master? Who shall be warmed by the fire and deny his master? 7 years and the summer's over. 7 years since the Archbishop left us. He was always kind to his people, but it would not be well if he should return. King rules, or baron rules. We have suffered various oppressions, but mostly we are left to our own devices, and we are content if we are left alone. We try to keep our households in order. The merchant, shy and cautious, tries to compile a little fortune, and the laborer bends to his piece of earth color, his own color, preferring to pass unobserved. Now I fear disturbing to the quiet seasons. Winter shall bring death from the seas. Ruinous spring shall beat at our doors. Root and shoot shall eat our eyes and our ears. Disastrous summer burn up the beds of our streams, and the poor shall wait for another decade. Decaying October. Why should the summer bring consolation for autumn fires and winter fogs? What shall we do in the heat of summer? But wait in barren orchards for another October? Some milady is coming on us. We wait, and the saints and martyrs wait, for those who shall be martyrs and saints. Destiny waits in the hands of God, shaping the still unshapen. I have seen these things in a shaft of sunlight. Destiny waits in the hands of God, but not in the hands of statesmen, who do some well, some ill, planning and guessing, having their arms which turn in their hands in the patterns of time. Come, happy December, who shall observe you, who shall preserve you? Shall the Son of Man be born again in the litter of scorn? For us, the poor, there is no action, but only to wait and to live.
Why don't we look at the first two questions here? This is the chorus. He represents the women, the poor women of Canterbury. First question is, he talks about the months. The seasons and months of the year are given epithets. What do these epithets have in common? What mood did they create? So did you see examples of where months and seasons are described?
Yes.
Yeah, what are they?
It's like moldy. They're talking about October being all like nice and golden, and November being all like bland, which
Somber.
is, funnily enough, not how we see it now, typically in like modern
And
culture.
don't forget, this is England, and so they're a lot more north latitude than we are, so, yeah.
They said, winter shall come bringing death from the sea, ruinous spring shall beat on our doors, disastrous summer burn up the beds of our streams, and the poor shall wait for another decaying October.
So put all that together, and that was a good thing to quote. What is the mood that's created right here at the beginning?
Everything is bad.
All right, very somber, the word decaying, very dark. So the mood begins very somber, sad, serious. Yes,
So what they have in common is it's all darker things,
yes.
and that creates like a dark, somber.
Mm-hmm. And on page 11, you actually got this Friday, Dominic. What's
The New Year waits, whispers in darkness.
So the very last line on page 11 is a great example of personification. So these are the poor women. I would ask you to write the date December 2nd, 1170, because this scene happens the day Thomas returns from France, and it's December 2nd. Did you know if you go from Dover to Calais, I think it is, on the French coast, I think it's less than 24 miles. People have swum that. So England and France are really, really close.
Is that why they fought so much in the past?
December 2nd.
1170.
It's also on the page before.
Good. All right, so now we're gonna hear the priests. They're aware that Thomas is coming home. They've heard the news. So we'll go with our three priests, and which is Thomas, Lazamin, and Dominic. I believe, yeah. Thomas, Andrew, whenever you're ready.
Oh, yes. 7 years and the summer is over. 7 years since the Archbishop left us.
What did the Archbishop do in our sovereign Lord the Pope? With the stubborn king and the French king in ceaseless intrigue, combinations in conference, meetings accepted, meetings refused, meetings unended or endless of one place another in France,
I see nothing quite conclusive in the heart of temporal government, but violence, duplicity, frequent malversation. Kings rules or barons rule. The strong man strongly and the weak man by outbursts. They have but one law to seize the power and keep it, and the steadfast to manipulate the greed and lust of others. The feeble is devoured by his own.
Andrew.
Oh, yes, right. Thank you. Shall these things not end until the poor at the gate have forgotten their friend in God, have forgotten that they had a friend?
Servants of God and watchers of the temple, I am here to inform you, without circumlocution, the Archbishop is in England, and is close outside the city. I was sent before in haste to give you notice of his coming, as much as was possible, that you may prepare to meet him.
What? Is the exile ended? Is our Lord Archbishop reunited with the king? What reconciliation of two proud men?
No peace can be found to go between the hammer and the anvil.
tell us, are the old disputes at an end? Is the wall of pride crushed down that divided them? Is it peace or war?
In full assurance.
Does he come in full assurance?
Oh, does he come in full assurance, or only secure in the power of Rome, the spiritual rule, the assurance of right, and the love of the people?
You are right to express a certain incredulity.
Incredulity means doubt.
He comes in pride and sorrow, affirming all his claims, assured beyond doubt to the devotion of the people, who receive him with scenes of
Frenzy.
frenzied enthusiasm, lining the road and throwing down their capes, strewing the way with leaves and late flowers of the season. The streets of the city will be packed to suffocation, and I think that his horse will be deprived of his tail, a single hair of which comes the precious relic. He is at one with the Pope and with the King of France, who indeed would have liked to detain him in his kingdom. But as for our king, that is another matter.
But again, is it war or peace?
Peace, but not the kiss of peace. A patch-up affair, if you ask my opinion. And if you ask me, I think the Lord Archbishop is not the man to cherish any illusions, or yet to diminish the least of his pretensions. If you ask my opinion, I think that this peace is nothing like an end or like a beginning. It is common knowledge that when the Archbishop parted from the king, he said to the king, "My lord," he said, "I leave you as a man whom in this life I shall not see again. I have this, I assure you, on the highest authority. There are several opinions as to what he meant, but no one considers it a happy
Prognostic.
I fear for the Archbishop. I fear for the Church. I know that the pride bread of sudden prosperity was but confirmed by bitter adversity. I saw him as chancellor, flattered by the king, liked or feared by that word in their overbearing fashion, courtiers, despised and despising, always isolated, never among them, always insecure. His pride was always feeding upon his own virtues, pride drawing sustenance from inequality, pride drawing sustenance from generosity, loathing power given by temporal devotion and devolution, with wishing subjection to God alone. Had the king been greater, or had he been weaker, things had perhaps been different for Thomas.
Yet our Lord is returned. Our Lord has come back to his own again. We have had enough waiting from December to dismal December. The Archbishop shall be at our head, dispelling dismay and doubt. He will tell us what we are to do. He will give us our orders and instruct us. Our Lord is at one with the Pope and also with the King of France. We can lean on a rock, we can feel a firm foothold against the perpetual wash of tides and balance of forces of barons and landholders. The rock of God is beneath our feet. Let us meet the Archbishop with cordial thanksgiving. Our Lord, our Archbishop returns. And when the Archbishop returns, our doubts are dispelled. Let us therefore rejoice. I say rejoice and show a glad face for his welcome. I am the Archbishop's man. Let us give the Archbishop welcome.
For good or ill, let the wheel turn. The wheel has been still these 7 years, and no good. For ill or good, let the wheel turn. For who knows the end of good or evil? Until the grinders cease, and the door shall be shut in the street, and all the daughters of music shall be brought in.
Okay, before the chorus reads again, let's go back to the questions. All right, so we're gonna go to question number 3. We know the answer to this because of the notes. Why do you think Eliot chose the poor women of Canterbury to serve as the chorus?
Wait, this wasn't Shakespeare?
No, it's T.S. Lewis. T.S. Eliot, I'm sorry.
So what year did he perform?
1935.
Oh, 1935. Oh, it's that recent?
Well, it's
Shocking.
65, it's 85 years ago.
Still, I just thought it was like,
It's more recent than Shakespeare.
it's more recent than Shakespeare. It's written so.
All right, anybody know why the chorus, the poor women of Canterbury? The chorus kind of comments on the action. They kind of take the long view. They comment on what's going on. Remember, Thomas was the champion of the poor. So these people love him more than anybody. They admire him. He was their helper, their champion. And so he's given them the role in the play that the playwright has as having been able to comment on it. So, and then based on what she said, or they say, what, let's see, what effect has departure had on his people? Pick up any of that?
They seem pretty upset about it.
Well,
When they're talking about him returning, they're saying that they'll tell them what to do and guide them.
right, but they don't want him to come back because they're afraid he's going to die. And so, they missed him. Their life was hard without him because they had no champion. It says right here, we have suffered various oppressions.
Where? What page?
I'm reading from page 12.
Why did the Archbishop leave?
Remember, he left because he was afraid for his life. He was opposing the king, and he got so hot that he had to leave or he would be killed. So for 6, actually they say 7 years, he was in France. And they missed him because their life was harder. So we're answering question number 3 and number 4.
Can you say number 3?
Number 3, because Thomas is the champion of the poor.
Wait, and what is number 4?
Why'd you get number 3, Dominic? And number 4, their life has been hard without him, but they don't want him to come back because they're afraid he's gonna die.
So is that why he left?
I can't hear you.
Is that why he left? Because he was
No, he left, yes, he left because he was afraid of his life. And now that he's back, he's still, he's still in jeopardy. All right, look at number 5. The third priest. It's just gonna be much harder for you to learn this if you're not paying any attention. It just doesn't work that way, I just wanna remind you. All right, the third priest says on page 14, the question is, how would you characterize the third priest's opinion? He says, I see nothing quite conclusive in the art of temporal government, but violence, duplicity, and frequent malversation. Well, malversation is one of the words you're looking up tonight for tomorrow. But I can tell you right now, it's corruption. So his view of the government, the question is, how would you characterize his view of worldly leaders? They are corrupt, they are deceptive, they are violent, and they're temporary. They're gonna die. They don't offer any lasting hope. And anyway, while they're here, they're violent, they're deceptive, and they are corrupt.
Did you say temporary?
Yeah, temporal means earthly or worldly, or we get the word temporary from it. It's just gonna last for a while, they'll be replaced, as opposed to the church who offers eternal hope and eternal peace. All right, so we're down to number 6, and I think we can say this. Anybody pick up on that?
Oh, I did have one question. The vocab, what, is it just the first column? All
First 15. First 15, you see up there, the word is all the way through stratagem.
All the way through what word?
Right up there on the board. All right, anybody pick up on the differences in the 3 priests? Yeah,
The first priest doesn't want him to come back.
so he's afraid.
Yeah. And
What-
then
yeah.
the second priest is like praising that he's coming back.
He's hopeful,
And then I can't remember what the third one was.
neutral. The first one is fearful, second one is hopeful. Things will get better when Thomas gets back. And the third one says, let's just see how it goes.
The first one is here.
Fearful. He says, I fear for the archbishop, I fear for the church. And the third one is, just see how it goes. It will be, whatever will be, will be. Que sera, sera. All right, so here's the chorus. And the chorus has a long speech here, and it'll bring us up to Thomas. So we'll see chorus. Where are you, chorus? Continue.
There is no conceiving in the city, there is no abiding stay. Ill the wind, ill the time, uncertain the prophet, certain the danger. Oh, late, 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 late is the time, late, too late, and rotten the year. Evil the wind, and bitter the sea, and gray the sky, gray, gray, gray. Oh, Thomas, return, Archbishop, return, return to France, return, quickly, quietly, leave us to perish in quiet, and come with applause, and come with
So 7 asks, what is, based on that speech, what is their reaction to the Archbishop's return? Yes.
They don't want him to come back because it was quiet, like before.
They're not happy, and their life isn't easy. They've been oppressed, but it's better than change. They're used to it. And if he comes back, they'd rather him be live in France than dead in England. So good answer. Second priest. When Lizaman's ready, sure.
Wait, could you repeat that one more time?
They don't want him to come back.
And this is because,
'Cause they like the way things are, which is not easy or not great, but it's better than him coming back and things getting worse, because if he dies, it's worse. At least he's alive in France. Lizaman. We go to 11:30 today, so.
What a way to talk at such a juncture. You are foolish, immodest, and babbling woman. Do you not know that the good Archbishop is likely to arrive at any moment? The crowds in the streets will be cheering and cheering. You go on croaking like frogs in the treetops. But frogs at least can be cooked and eaten. Whatever you are afraid of in your craven apprehension, let me ask you at the least to put on pleasant faces and give a hearty welcome to our good Archbishop.
Peace, and let them be in their exaltation. They speak better than they know and beyond your understanding. They know and do not know what it is to act or suffer. They know and do not know what action is suffering, and suffering is action. Neither does the agent suffer nor patient act. For both are fixed in an eternal action and eternal patience, to which all must consent that it may be willed, and in which all must suffer, that they may will it. That the pattern may subsist, for the pattern is the action, and the suffering that the will may turn it and still be still and forever still.
Oh my Lord, forgive me, I did not see you coming, engrossed by the chatter of these foolish women. Forgive us, my Lord, you would have had a better welcome if we had been sooner prepared for the event. But your Lordship knows that 7 years of waiting, 7 years of prayer, 7 years of emptiness have better prepared our hearts for your coming than 7 days could make ready Canterbury. However, I will have fires laid in all your rooms to take the chill off our English December. Your Lordship now being used to a better climate, your Lordship will find your rooms in order as you left them.
And will try to leave them in order as I find them. I am more grateful for all your kind intentions. These are small matters. Listen, rest in Canterbury with eager enemies restless about us. Rebellious bishops, York, London, Salisbury, but have intercepted our letters. Filled the coast with spies and sent to meet me, some who hold me in bitterest hate. By God's grace, aware of their provision, I sent my letters another day. At Fair Crossing, found it sandwiched from Morani and Sheriff Camp. Those who have sworn to have my head for me, only John, the Dean of Salisbury, fearing for the king's name, warning against treason, bade them hold their hands, so for the time we are unmolested.
Andrew.
oh, me again? Oh, yeah, first priest or first, oh, yeah. What did they follow after?
For a little time, the hungry hawk will only soar and hover, circling lower, waiting excuse, pretense, opportunity. End will be simple, sudden, God-given. Meanwhile, the substance of our first act will be shadows, and the strife with shadows, heavier the interval than the consummation. All things prepare the event. Watch.
We're gonna stop there and answer the questions, and tomorrow we'll start with the tempters. We have 88 pages, so you see we're kind of already 25% through. Let's look at the questions. Look at number 8. Based on his speech, what does Thomas envision for his future? He describes a hawk circling before he strikes the prey. He says,
They're waiting to kill him.
yeah, he expects to die, because the they, meaning the king, is just waiting. Because he got here, there were people ready to kill him. when he got off the boat, they managed to avoid them somehow, he gives God the credit. They were gonna kill him as soon as he stepped on English soil. But he doesn't do that. And so tomorrow, we're up through question number 8. If we can just stay focused, we can finish this book this week. We need 4 tempters, and we'll pick those out tomorrow. Each tempter is working to change Thomas's mind about something.